For centuries, we believed the statues of Easter Island were just heads staring at the horizon. But when an archaeologist dug into the ground, he found something that shouldn't exist. What was buried there defied logic, history, and perhaps even our understanding of human origins itself. Because what they discovered beneath the earth is about to change everything. For a long time, people thought the Moai were just giant faces lost on the Pacific horizon. But when the team from the Easter Island discovery began digging through the volcanic soil, something unexpected emerged. Entire bodies with crossed arms and symbols carved into their backs. The buried Moai statues were far more than simple sculptures. They were complete guardians, shaped by a civilization that understood the balance between matter and spirit. Each statue faced not the ocean, as many imagine, but the ancient villages. It was as if they were watching over the living, connecting the Rapa Nui people to the invisible forces that ruled their existence. This detail changes everything. It reveals a society that didn't raise idols, but bridges between the visible and the sacred. A portrait of an ancient Polynesian culture, more organized, spiritual, and symbolic than any book ever described. And yet, as archaeologists brush the red soil off the hills, they notice something even more intriguing. Fragments of shells, traces of charcoal, signs of ritual life surrounding the figures. Everything seemed to whisper that there was more beneath those stones, something the Easter Island archaeology still could not grasp. But the strangest thing wasn't the size, it was what was buried around them. As the archaeologists continued their excavations, something unexpected appeared among the layers of volcanic ash. Large deposits of red pigment made of hematite and magnetite. This find wasn't just aesthetic, it carried a deep meaning. Red, for that ancient Polynesian culture, symbolized power, protection, and the cycle of life. It was the same pigment used to paint the buried Moai statues, the sacred bones, and the altars where the people performed rituals to connect with their ancestors. The most fascinating part is that this discovery contradicted the idea of a society in decline. On the contrary, the pigment revealed that the Rapa Nui civilization was still evolving, developing increasingly refined techniques to extract and blend minerals. In each grain of red powder, Easter Island archaeology found signs of intelligence, intention, and continuity. That lost civilization mystery hadn't collapsed, it had transformed, turning the very earth into a sacred language. But one question began to echo among the researchers. Why produce so much pigment if silence would soon cover the island? Was there a deeper reason for such devotion? The soil seemed to hide more than color. It seemed to conceal purpose. What if that red marked not only rituals, but the portals to something buried even deeper? The next stage of the Easter Island discovery revealed something that seemed to defy time itself. Beneath some Moai were sealed chambers built with millimetric precision. When the researchers removed the stones, they found bones carefully arranged, tools made of polished stone, and jewelry crafted from shells brought from islands more than 1,500 miles away. It was undeniable proof that the Rapa Nui not only built statues, but also mastered an oceanic trade network, linking their ancient Polynesian culture to distant civilizations. These underground chambers were not simple tombs. They were temples of transition, places where the dead were prepared for eternity under the watchful gaze of the buried Moai statues. The walls painted with the same red pigment found in previous excavations, pulsed with undeniable symbolism. Red wasn't just a color, it was the border between worlds. The archaeologists of Easter Island archaeology knew that every detail there told a story of faith, hierarchy, and continuity. But something still didn't fit the puzzle. If they buried their leaders beneath these stone giants, what else could they have hidden within them? Could there be internal chambers, secret corridors, or even messages carved beneath the rocks? The answer seemed to lie not only in the soil, but in the silent gaze of those figures that have defied the wind for centuries. In 1978, a group of archaeologists was carefully cleaning the face of one of the Moai when something white glimmered under the sunlight. They were fragments of coral and obsidian, the long-lost eyes that had been buried for centuries. When reconstructed, these eyes revealed a startling secret. The buried Moai statues literally had vision. When the light struck them, they seemed to awaken, gaining a vivid gaze that reflected the spiritual power of the ancient Polynesian culture. These coral eyes were more than ornaments. For Easter Island archaeology, they represented the exact moment when the ancestral spirit entered the statue, bringing it to life. Only the most important Moai received eyes, a sign that power and purpose resided within them. Each statue was like an antenna between worlds, part body, part divinity. The people believed that as long as the eyes faced their villages, prosperity would remain among them. But the archaeologists noticed something even more curious. The eyes seemed to look beyond the horizon, as if searching for something time itself had forgotten. Were they aligned with the sunrise, with stars, or with sacred roots lost in the ocean? The mystery deepened, along with the feeling that the Moai were not just sculptures, but codes. And perhaps the key was hidden in the language they left behind. Among the island's ruins and caves, the archaeologists of Easter Island Archaeology found what seemed like the silent echo of an ancient mind: wooden tablets covered with meticulous symbols carved with almost impossible precision. It was the mysterious Rongo Rongo script. Unlike any other known writing system, it was bidirectional. One line read from left to right, the next from right to left. A pattern so complex that to this day, no one has fully deciphered it. These tablets weren't mere records, they were the voice of a lost civilization mystery trying to reach across time. Some believe they contained spiritual instructions. Others say they were astronomical records or genealogical stories. The truth is that when the last priest capable of reading them died, the connection between past and present was severed. And what remained was only silence. But the story didn't end there. Because when the language went silent, another symbol of power emerged: the Birdman cult. A new faith, born from the need to reconnect man with the divine, began to take form. It marked the beginning of a ritual that would transform the island's destiny and redefine who was worthy to lead. Suddenly, the construction of the Moai stopped. Silence overtook the quarries, and the old ceremonial paths were abandoned. In place of the former devotion to the stone giants, something new emerged: the Birdman cult. In Rongo, atop cliffs plunging into the Pacific, the clans competed in a deadly challenge to retrieve the first sacred egg brought by migratory birds. Whoever succeeded was proclaimed the new spiritual leader, the Tangata Manu, the Birdman. This shift marked a turning point in the Easter Island discovery. Power was no longer inherited by blood, but earned through courage. It was as if the ancient Polynesian culture, faced with ecological collapse and scarcity, had reinvented its own hierarchy to survive. The Birdman cult didn't destroy the old faith, it transformed it. Merging instinct with spirituality, the body with the sacred. Archaeologists realized that this cult was more than a ritual. It was a response to crisis. A reminder that when the world collapses, humanity creates new myths to rise again. But what had caused that collapse? Was it man or something from beyond? For decades, books and documentaries repeated the same narrative, that the Rapa Nui people had destroyed themselves. But new discoveries in Easter Island archaeology reveal a different story and a much fairer one. Before European arrival, the island was a model of stability. A farming, cooperative, and spiritually guided society that thrived in isolation. The real disaster came later, with disease, slavery, and cultural devastation brought by foreign explorers. This reinterpretation shattered the myth of self-destruction and exposed how the outside gaze distorted the truth. The ancient Polynesian culture didn't collapse, it was interrupted. Every tool, every crop, every grain of red pigment proved that there was continuity and wisdom there. The buried Moai statues, once seen as symbols of decline, became monuments of resilience. And perhaps the most powerful contrast lies between ancient harmony and the shock of colonization. Fertile land turned into prison camps, sacred rituals replaced by foreign impositions. yet even under the ashes of loss. One question kept echoing. What kept the essence of the Rapa Nui alive, and how has it survived to this day? Even after centuries of invasions, slavery, and oblivion, the blood of the Rapa Nui still flows through the veins of the descendants who live on the island today. Modern science has confirmed that their DNA preserves deep traces of ancient Polynesian culture, a biological link that has survived both time and the violence of colonization. In every craftsman carving a miniature of the buried Moai statues, in every fisherman staring at the sea at dawn, there is a living memory. It is as if Easter Island archaeology has only scratched the surface of the true heritage of the Rapa Nui, a legacy of endurance and spirituality. And perhaps it is this invisible strength that explains why the Moai still stand. They defy not only erosion and wind, but also forgetfulness itself. Yet to fully understand how this resilience shaped the present, scientists would have to look deeper, literally. In recent years, Easter Island archaeology has gained a new ally: technology. Drones, radar sensors, and 3D scans have begun mapping the underground with surgical precision, revealing hidden chambers and tunnels. Each new point detected confirms something greater. The Easter Island discovery is far from over. These three-dimensional images show that the Moai are not isolated, but connected by underground paths and ancient drainage channels. This reinforces that the Rapa Nui possessed advanced engineering, an ancient Polynesian culture that understood the terrain, the climate, and the energy of the earth itself. And here emerges a powerful metaphor. The island's soil is like a book still being read. Each layer reveals a new page, each fossil a forgotten word. But one question remains: what will the final reading reveal? The Moai are more than statues. They are guardians of time, silent witnesses of a civilization that dared to leave its mark on the most isolated place on Earth. Every detail of their shape, every carved symbol, carries an encoded message about who we were and how far we can go. There is a universal lesson carved in these stones. True strength is born from isolation. The Rapa Nui had no empires, armies, or wealth, only purpose. And even so, they built monuments that defied both the ocean and time. But the mystery is far from over. What if Easter Island is not the only place with buried statues? The next excavation could uncover an even older secret, one that might rewrite everything we know about human history. What archaeologists have discovered beneath Easter Island is not just a historical revelation. It is a reminder that we still know very little about the human past. Every excavation, every symbol, every fragment uncovered by the teams of Easter Island archaeology points to something greater. A story that the world may not yet be ready to hear. But one thing is certain: the mystery is far from over. And what lies beneath the island soil may be only the first chapter of something much older spread across other continents. If you want to keep exploring these secrets and understand what might truly be hidden beneath our feet, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next discoveries promise to go even deeper.